next year. Is that correct?
Well, this is the chart that he gave to the Congress, which lays out the troop reductions. The first two troop reductions are set, and then the rest are what he plans. He is now telling us that he'll make...
As I understood it in his testimony, I didn't hear him say anything about beyond next year, beyond 08.
Well, he's now set a deadline of March of next year for a decision on the further troop reductions. In my view, it's time to wind up this mission. And it's time to have the Iraqis make difficult political decisions. The United States is leaving Iraq. There are going to be some sides of this conflict that are disadvantaged when America leaves. It's now going to be time for them to cut their best deal with the Iraqi government. I think that's why so many Sunni tribes came over to our side in Al-Anbar province, because they realize that with a presidential election coming, the U.S. is leaving Iraq, and it's time for them to cut their best deal now.
They may have also come over because they were heavily paid by the United States, but if that worked, it worked, I guess.
Yeah.
So when you look ahead then, we have this plan now, General Petraeus' plan, the President's going to approve. How does that fit in with what your legislation is calling for?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to make sure that perhaps we add some other things onto this bill where we say, okay, this is what the President has said he's going to do. Let's make sure that he does that. We probably would put that in a supplemental bill with further funding.
I would say, would this include funding?
In
or
the supplemental
funding
bill, I believe the supplemental bill, which we are going to be working on this fall, I think is going to be tied definitely to those reductions in troops that the President is probably going to tell us he wants later this week, plus potentially, more, but we're going to have to wait and see what we can negotiate on that. But the problem is not going to be solved in Iraq by the military. It is a political problem within Iraq, and more pressure needs to be put on the Iraqi government. I also put out legislation earlier this year calling for a peace conference akin to the Dayton Conference, which led to the Dayton Accords, to bring the interested parties in Iraq together, possibly in a place like El Salvador. They've had their own civil war. They have been helping in Iraq.
And what was the reaction to this? Was there any enthusiasm for this?
There is, so far, I'm happy to see, just yesterday I learned there's a conference held in Finland just last week by the Crisis Management Initiative, starting to do something like this. And I'm hopeful that, something like that is suggested in the Iraq Study Group bill.
Congressman Kirk, we just have 30 seconds, but given some of these suggestions, can this be a bipartisan effort, and can, particularly in a presidential campaign year, can this happen?
It should be.
Can both sides get together?
We've taken some risk, both of us, in joining together and doing that. The Iraq Study Group bill has been blocked in Congress. It shouldn't be. It should move forward. It doesn't do what President Bush likes, and it doesn't do what hardline partisans on the other side like. But the troops are going to want to see Republicans and Democrats coming together to have a stable vision of how we get out of Iraq, but how we get out of Iraq not handing it over to terrorists or to the Iranians.
All right. Thanks very much to both of you. To Congressman Dan Lipinski and Mark Kirk, thanks for coming.